Turkey has successfully leveraged its geography and also its commercial abilities and has become an extremely important transit state.
President Biden's closest aides has urged Russia not to exploit the energy crisis.
UK households could see their bills going up by £111 every year on average.
Gas balances and the existing crisis times have strengthened the Turkey's position on being an energy center.
Turkey has not aligned itself fully with the positions of the European Union on Russia's invasion.
As of today, we brought gas all the cities, 81 cities, and more than 800 districts and industrial zones.
Tuna 1 kuyusundaki bu sondajın ön verileri bize sahada 320 milyar metreküplük rezerv olduğunu göstermiştir.
Since ancient times, this gateway has connected Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa. At crossroads of civilizations, Türkiye has long been a vital artery for trade, where goods, ideas, and cultures have intertwined for centuries. The success of this commercial route has stood the test of time. Precious metals, spices, crops, and grains have moved through Türkiye, shaping economies and sustaining nations, just as they do today. Türkiye's Black Sea region has held a unique significance, serving as a lifeline of grain and energy for its neighbors. But in 2022, this delicate balance was shattered.
The military operation is now underway in eastern Ukraine.
The full-scale invasion that intelligence officials had been warning about for weeks is now underway.
What was once a lifeline of commerce from the Black Sea is now a front line of crisis, reshaping global energy flows and triggering alarms across the security landscape. As the only nation maintaining diplomatic channels with both Russia and Ukraine, Türkiye played a delicate balancing act.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan, president of Turkey, from Ukraine to Russia to NATO. He wields outsized influence in both the East and the West.
What was a balanced foreign policy was criticized by Türkiye's Western partners, who were seeking a harsh confrontation with Russia.
Mais nous devons, nous Européens, être clairs et fermes avec le gouvernement du président Erdogan, qui aujourd'hui a des comportements inadmissibles.
And once again, Türkiye stood at the center of it all.
Turkey doesn't want to have to rely on Russia. But they got to understand that we're not going to continue to play with them the way we have. So I am very concerned.
Empires are coming back. Russia, China, and Turkey is one of these elements that changes our environment.
2023, turn inbound when you can, traffic to follow, tires 2.
Once again, Türkiye remained loyal to its policy, implementing what has been written in the Montreux Convention since 1936. In times of war, Türkiye has the right to close the Turkish straits to the vessels of belligerent parties. Turkey's control over the Dardanelles, the Bosphorus, and the Sea of Marmara was crucial during the war in Ukraine, as it didn't allow any country to pass, including both Russian and NATO vassals.
It is very clear that Turkey has not aligned itself fully with the positions of the European Union on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, obviously beginning with the fact that Turkey has not been implementing sanctions vis-à-vis Russia. Having said that, I think it's also important to recognize that Turkey has rather skillfully managed to use its role as fence-sitter on the war in a way which has been growing its potential role and strategic relevance. And we've seen it on a number of occasions, the way in which Turkey has mediated, especially the grain deal between Russia and Ukraine, the way in which it's mediated prisoner exchange deals, again, between Russia and Ukraine. So in a sense, Turkey has been leveraging rather successfully the fact that it has been sitting on the fence. And I think that is something which the European Union and the West in general appreciates.
Although the positive global impact of the grain deal was undeniable, another challenge loomed on the horizon: the flow of energy. If these energy corridors collapse, the consequences will be catastrophic for Europe. Industries would grind to a halt, economies would falter, and millions would be left in uncertainty.
President Biden's closest aides has urged Russia not to exploit the energy crisis.
UK households could see their bills going up by £111 every year on average.
Russian-Ukrainian war started, and that war actually has a greater effect mainly on the European markets, initially on the European markets. Russian gas dependency was very high in European Union, like more than 50% levels. Existing the natural gas balances and the existing crisis times have strengthened the Turkey's position on being an energy center.
Türkiye was again at unique position as the only country that could maintain a balancing act between Russian and Europe.
Энергетика коренным образом перестроилась буквально во всем мире, поэтому один из главных таких пострадавших и изменившихся секторов — это именно нефтегаз и уголь, и в перспективе еще и атомная отрасль, именно потому, что Россия крупный игрок на этом рынке, поэтому страны коллективного Запада, и Соединенные Штаты, и Евросоюз многие санкции вводили против России именно в сфере энергетики. И здесь мы можем посмотреть, какие изменения произошли. Вот Турция стала одним из главных, кто увеличил закупки российских нефтепродуктов, в частности дизельного топлива. И Турция на протяжении всего 2023 года и начала 2024 сохраняет лидерство по закупке российских нефтепродуктов, в частности дизельного топлива, потому что это можно делать уже без скидки. И таким образом на разнице цен Турция хорошо зарабатывает, и России это тоже удобно, потому что короткая доставка, короткое транспортное плечо. То есть в течение одного дня буквально из Новороссийска можно танкер выгрузить в Турции и вернуться за новой партией. Для сравнения, естественно, вам понадобится несколько дней, чтобы аналогичную операцию провести с Индией или с Севером Африки, с Ливией, Египтом и рядом других стран, которые тоже такими операциями занимаются. Поэтому это во многом взаимовыгодное сотрудничество. Ну и плюс Турция тоже закупает довольно много российской нефти, ее перерабатывает, и часть полученных нефтепродуктов тоже поставляет в Евросоюз. Это не запрещено. Евросоюз отдельно говорил, что произведенные из российской нефти в третьих странах нефтепродукты не считаются санкционным товаром, и их можно поставлять. И для Евросоюза это тоже хороший выход, потому что с коротким транспортным плечом они получают готовые нефтепродукты. Поэтому изменения в основном произошли именно такие, что мы поменялись с рынками сбыта, произошло такое великое переселение нефти.
So, there's a reason that the West didn't sanction Russian oil into the market, because you can't take out the second biggest exporter of oil from the market. Basically, Russian oil's been rerouted versus, so it hasn't been taken out of the global pool of oil. If you would have taken out, about 10% of the world's oil from the market, you would have a price spike that would be unsustainable for the world. On the question of natural gas, can Europe sustain without Russian gas? It really depends what your goals are. If it's just to keep warm, basic survival, yes, obviously we've seen this last winter that essentially, with very little Russian gas in the market, Europe has been able to weather it. But at what cost? And I think this is something, again, politicians are not talking about. It's been at a huge economic costs. So if you look at how Europe reduced its gas needs, it wasn't from wearing additional sweaters or higher energy efficiency. It's from what's called on the books demand destruction. Oh no, demand destruction doesn't sound so bad, you know. Okay, you need less. Demand destruction means collapsing of industries.
As Russian gas supplies dwindle, the cost of energy in Europe surges. Industries heavily reliant on stable and affordable gas are the first to feel the blow. With demand driving prices higher, factories face an impossible choice: adapt, shut down, or relocate. As a key transit hub, Türkiye offered a vital alternative.
There was an attack on the both pipelines, Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. The main northern corridor of Russia to supply natural gas to Europe has collapsed. Russia has lost the main export route, which is the northern route. The middle route is out of use, nearly out of use, and only Russia to send gas to European Union with pipelines. The only sustainable and long-term route goes through the Turkey. The existing Turkish Stream pipeline and the existing the TAP and TANAP pipelines has an important role to feed the European Union.
Today, Turkey is a major energy transit state. You know, Turkey sits really sits in the middle between some of the biggest oil and gas producing areas of the world, like the Caspian, North Africa, Eastern Mediterranean, Russia, and sits next to the biggest energy importing region, you know, which is Europe. So Turkey has successfully leveraged its geography and also its commercial abilities, and has become an extremely important transit state.
Due to the sanctions implemented on Russia, the key supplier of gas and oil to Europe, the need for a transit hub and an alternative gas field became apparent. Türkiye, located on the transit route of the countries that supply and demand energy, was already interconnected with several pipelines. Furthermore, the crisis in Ukraine and the subsequent energy challenges it has brought transformed Türkiye into more than a regional power, but also to a global actor.
That's why Türkiye is playing a major role for European energy security, especially Southeast European region, Balkans. So many countries desperately need gas for their economy, and Türkiye started to supply gas to those markets. We are exporting gas to Bulgaria, we are exporting gas to Romania, we are exporting gas to Hungary, all the way to Hungary, and Serbia as well. We would like to increase the interconnection capacity between Türkiye and European section, like Bulgaria and Greece, that we are going to be able to export more gas to those markets. So these are our goals, and Türkiye, with that strategy, with huge investment, are able to secure its supply security, but also helping to ensure security of supply for Europe.
In 2002, Turkey started investing in its development and infrastructure. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was the country's newly elected prime minister at the time, and he promised to provide energy to all 81 provinces of Türkiye.
Bizden önce, yani 3 Kasım öncesinde 9 vilayetimizde doğalgaz kullanılabiliyorken biz bu sayıyı şu anda 45 vilayetimize çıkarmış bulunuyoruz. İnşallah bu yıl sonu itibariyle doğalgaz kullanan il sayısı Türkiye genelinde 60'a ulaşmış olacak.
In just 2 decades, access to energy in Türkiye transformed from a luxury enjoyed by a few cities to a nationwide reality.
We used to have gas access in 5 cities. As of today, we brought gas all the cities, 81 cities, and more than 800 districts and industrial zones, more than 200 industrial zones. Now they have access to gas.
Until 2017, Turkey depended on neighboring countries regarding oil and gas consumption. It is estimated that 90% of the country's energy needs were imported via pipelines. This undoubtedly introduced certain risks surrounding the security of supply.
And then in 2016, we decided to change this strategy and policy. We said, yes, we would like to increase the consumption in Turkey because we need gas, but we need to get the gas in more diverse way, and also we need to find our own gas, and we need to find the production in Turkey. So we changed the strategy. We announced this strategy. We call it National Energy and Mining Strategy back in 2016-2017.
Turkey saw an opportunity to reduce dependence on foreign energy and take control of its own future. With that vision in mind, the Turkish National Energy and Mining Policy was announced, a strategy designed to strengthen both the economy and national security. This was more than just a policy. It was a mission to achieve energy self-sufficiency.
We had two major changes in our program for the oil and gas. We said we need to go the areas that we haven't previously explored. And another change was that we said we need to change also the way that we are operating.
Rather than relying on external sources, often unpredictable and politically complex, Turkey would develop its own resources, using its own facilities, systems, and technology. And to make that vision a reality, Turkey took a bold step. In 2017, the country invested in cutting-edge technology, acquiring 3 state-of-the-art drilling ships and 2 seismic vessels. Soon, offshore drilling began, first in the eastern Mediterranean, then in the Black Sea. For 3 years, the ships scoured the depths, searching for natural gas and petroleum. Then, in August 2020, the breakthrough came.
Geçtiğimiz yıl Ağustos ayında milletimizin uzun zamandır hasretle beklediği müjdeyi büyük bir gururla vermiştik. Fatih sondaj gemimizin keşfettiği 320 milyar metreküplük doğalgaz sadece Türkiye'de değil, dünyada da büyük yankı uyandırdı.
In August 2020, in the middle of COVID, we discovered the largest gas reserves in the Black Sea. It was not only the historic for Turkish upstream industry, but also it was very historic for the world, because it was the largest offshore discovery in 2020 globally.
The Sakarya gas field was discovered in the Black Sea, a staggering 320 billion cubic meters of natural gas. The announcement by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan made headlines around the world.
It was amazing to see this development. I think, everyone was naysayers. Turkey can't do it. It will take, 7 years. And exactly it was done in 3 years. And that's quite amazing. And this will, of course, help Turkey to lower its energy costs, improve its energy security, and, position Turkey in an incredible way.
Biliyorsunuz bu projenin ilk adımını 2020 Ağustos'unda Filyos'un 175 kilometre açığındaki Sakarya gaz sahasında Fatih gemimizin vurduğu sondajla atmıştık. Tuna 1 kuyusundaki bu sondajın ön verileri bize sahada 320 milyar metreküplük rezerv olduğunu göstermişti. Ardından ilave sondajlarla bu rakam 405 milyar metrekübe yükseldi. Fatih sondaj gemimize Kanuni gemimizin de katılmasıyla genişleyen çalışmalar sonunda rezerv miktarımız 540 milyar metrekübe çıktı. Yavuz gemimizin de sondaj filomuza katılmasının ardından uluslararası bir değerlendirme şirketine yaptırdığımız 3 boyutlu modelleme ile Sakarya sahamızdaki gaz miktarı 652 milyar metreküp olarak tescillendi. Bu arada bir diğer saha olan Çaycuma 1 kuyusunda da 58 milyar metreküp rezerv keşfi yapıldı. Böylece Karadeniz'deki gaz rezervimiz 710 milyar metrekübe ulaştı. Karadeniz doğal gazımızın ülkemize, milletimize hayırlı olmasını diliyorum.
The challenge actually started right after this announcement because finding and discovering reserves is one thing, very important, very challenging. But to be honest, like a production is even more challenging. And we started to produce gas from the Sakarya gas field in less than 3 years' time.
How Turkey brought on the Sakarya field on within 3 years, I mean, that's tremendous. And this also shows how governments around the world need to stay in the business of energy security. Like without the government playing a strong role there, this couldn't have happened.
Turkey is making lots of different activities to be able to reach this position. For example, Turkey increased the existing natural gas distribution systems inside, make lots of different investments on natural gas storages, underground gas storages, and in addition to that has completed lots of LNG terminals. Turkey has made some investment by getting the drill ships. Turkey started to explore new oil and gas resources in its domestic areas and the EEZ zones. I think Turkey is putting too many coherent steps to strengthen its position within this natural gas hub game.
In 1.5 year time, we are aiming to sending this unit, this terminal to the Black Sea offshore fields, and then we will start production from that field over the next 20 years. So we are preparing this unit, this terminal, this platform to serve our gas grid, gas production for next 2 decades.
Открытие газовых месторождений на турецком шельфе позволяет Турции увеличить собственную добычу, и крупнейшим месторождением, которое уже введено в эксплуатацию и дальше будет увеличивать объемы, является Сакария. Это шельф, скорее так, к европейской ближе части Турции. Оттуда уже построен газопровод на побережье, и первый газ пошел в 2023 году. К 2028 году Турция рассчитывает увеличить объемы добычи до примерно 15 миллиардов кубов. Ну, посмотрим, как это будет реализовано на практике, но тем не менее газ уже идет, инфраструктура построена, это месторождение разрабатывается. Всего запасы газа Турции на шельфе как раз составляют около 710 миллиардов кубов. Это вряд ли позволит Турции экспортировать газ, то есть скорее речь пойдет о том, что Турция все эти новые объемы направит на внутренний рынок. И тем самым у нее возникнет выбор, что делать дальше. Либо собственная добыча будет вытеснять импортные поставки газа, либо Турция будет увеличивать в принципе долю газовой генерации, то есть производство электроэнергии на газовых станциях, и вытеснять угольную. Вот здесь вопрос скорее экономики. Если цены на газ на внешних рынках, как на мировом рынке, будут высокими, тогда Турции будет выгоднее просто замещать импорт и, соответственно, сокращать закупки у других поставщиков. Если же цены на газ на мировом рынке будут не такими высокими и импорт будет оставаться приемлемым, тогда можно будет сокращать просто долю угля, которая сейчас составляет около 30-35% в энергетике Турции. Это довольно много.
Hearing companies and European officials say, we're not going to need gas in the future, we're going to be all renewables and LNG. And it was clear that they were in a dream world, and it's clear that they need this gas, they need more gas from this project, they need other pipeline projects coming in. And it's really important for countries like Turkey to look at the market on their own and assess what are the commercial and energy security needs, and not just listen to sort of politicians that have a certain agenda that they want to promote a certain worldview that the world could all be on renewables and we can all hold hands and dance and that'll be very nice, but this isn't realistic. And I think when Turkey understood there was a market need for natural gas in the region and in the Black Sea region and in Europe, and correctly made these investments, and look how it's working out well for everyone, both commercially and geopolitically.